So a big welcome to the people who are joining us online as well. This is the second half of the final day of the IPR conference. We now have a panel discussion, which is for an hour and 15 minutes. First 45 minutes will be moderated with our expert panelists, and then again there'll be 30 minutes at the end. So what I'd like to do is introduce the moderator for this session, which is Saudi Arabia and the GCC, how to tap into one of the world's biggest payment markets. So I'd like to introduce Ibrahim Muhammad, payments consultant from FinExplore. If you'd love to come to the fore, sir, give him a big round of applause. Keep it going until he sits down, because otherwise this becomes a bit of an awkward pause. Lovely, thank you so much, sir. Next, he needs no introduction, it's Nadeem Qureshi, CTO at USI Money, or Uzi Money. Keep clapping for this fine gent. So a big welcome to the people who are joining us online as well. This is the second half of the final day of the IPR conference. We now have a panel discussion, which is for an hour and 15 minutes. First 45 minutes will be moderated with our expert panelists, and then again there'll be 30 minutes at the end. So what I'd like to do is introduce the moderator for this session, which is Saudi Arabia and the GCC, how to tap into one of the world's biggest payment markets. So I'd like to introduce Ibrahim Muhammad, payments consultant from FinExplore. If you'd love to come to the fore, sir, give him a big round of applause. Next, he needs no introduction, it's Nadeem Qureshi, CTO at USI Money. Keep clapping until this fine gent takes his seat there. Thank you so much. Then we have Saif Khan, who is president of Emir at Billars.
Yes,
Billars. Take a seat. So Saif is a payment industry veteran with over 18 years of experience across GCC, UK and USA markets, and excels in strategic sales, business development and fintech. Now, Saif has held senior leadership positions at prestigious institutions, including Al Fardan Exchange, which is headquartered in UAE, and Paykey?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure I say that right, which is a US-based company, currently occupies a pivotal role in driving commercial initiatives at Billars.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And finally, I believe we have Yasser Al-Kholi, who's a chairman of Ladake International Company.
Yes.
Ah, wonderful. There you are. I'm right on the other side.
Yes.
Good to meet you.
Excellent.
Now, Mr. Yasser is a founder and chairman of the board of directors and one of the leading brands in the field of travel, tourism, Hajj and Umrah technology. Yasser is a visionary and has led many digital transformation and e-government projects in KSA, and that's pretty difficult to do those type of projects anywhere, but especially in the Middle East, it's very, very tough. Yes. So well done and congratulations on that. Yasser has provided consultation to Saudi ministries on business process transformation, digitization and innovative change management. Yasser helped found many of today's strong companies hailing from Saudi Arabia. Once again, a big round of applause to our panelists. And over to you, sir, to start the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I hope you had a nice lunch break. We have another topic to cover in this panel again, which is about GCC, one of the most exciting markets, especially on the sending side. You know, two of the biggest sending countries are within GCC after US. So there's lots to discuss today. I'm sure there's lots of interesting insights given by the panel speakers in this session today. Before I start putting the questions to the panelists, I would just like to also run through a few minutes of my own experience of being in the UAE for over 30 years. I have seen those changes, especially in the last decade, in terms of payments. When I started, obviously, it was back those old days where there used to be demand draft. I don't know how many of you in the room know about demand draft. I'm sure most of us are quite young in this room, so we won't be knowing what's demand draft. It's just like those traveler checks. Yeah, and then we had something known as telex transfer, which was again another sort of innovation. And then came, of course, lots of other instruments from wire to today we talk about instant payments. So money back in old days used to take weeks. There was no complaint from the sending side or receiving side because they know that's the way the money is received. So they were very patient. Now with the instant payment, of course, that patience is gone. People expect money, if not in minutes, within a second, right, of just pushing the button. So yeah, I mean, just to also take you back to two leading markets in the GCC, which is Saudi Arabia, which is where we are going to, of course, hear a lot from the panel speakers today, and UAE as the second largest market, send market, especially after US. With regard to Saudi Arabia, I was really quite happy to hear that it has joined the $1 trillion club with regard to its GDP. So Saudi is definitely now, in the spotlight when it comes to the fastest country in terms of its economic growth rate among the G20. Right? And there's lots happening in this space, and I'm sure there's lots to discuss today among the panel speakers. So with that, I'll start my questions. Okay, so the first question is to Saif first. How are you doing, Saif?
Good, all good.
So what makes GCC such a significant region for payments and remittances?
Yeah, I mean, when we are going to talk about GCC, this is the market of $140 billion market. And if I think about early 2000, this market was somewhere like $25 billion market. So if you can see from $25 billion to $140 billion now, it shows what the market is. And if we talk about the top three sending markets, so after US, it is UAE and Saudi Arabia, right? So top three also, if you see in top two markets are from the same region, GCC. So it shows the potential of the region, of the markets. And same time, if you talk about the migration, like the migrants, so almost if you say like 280 million or 300 million migrants worldwide, so out of that, 35 million migrants are in this region. So it clearly shows the potential. It clearly shows, what GCC market is up to when we talk about the global remittances, payments or bill payments. And I just give you an example of UAE. I mean, the UAE market is like where the whole population of the UAE is almost 10 million, approximately. And out of 10 million, 9 million populations are expats. And within that 9 million expats population, almost 60%, close to 60% are Southeast Asians. So I hope you understand what I'm just trying to say and put you this figure, in front of you to understand you see what the potential of this market or of this region is.
Interesting. Thank you. Would you like to add anything from the Saudi perspective?
Yes, actually, as you started and said, that Saudi is the fastest growing and fastest in the business, and also the second industry that in Saudi Arabia is the tourism. It's going to be, and this is the mission of 2030, and we already increasing rapidly on the incoming, and we are not looking for the payments as mandatory services that we need. Now we need to talk about the services all in Saudi Arabia. It should be goes to be involved in the growth of the business and within the GCC. And I think in the coming 3 years, we're going to see a lot of competitors of products of payments and payments methodologies, which we're going to talk later about it.
Great. Nadeem, would you like to add anything to it? Thank you. Yeah, so with regard to those markets, as we said, those are really largest sending markets, and there's lots happening there. I mean, in the UAE, particularly, the money remittance is dominated till now by the exchange houses. So exchange houses primarily which we call MSBs in this part of the world. They are the ones which facilitate. Of course, they have a wide range of branches across all the entire country. But they also, of course, started now lately promoting services digitally. And this is where they are also competing with the new players, fintechs in this space, which are also offering money remittance services in the UAE. Right, so my next question is now to Nadeem. What are the, what are the primary challenges and opportunities for businesses looking to enter or expand into the key markets like UAE or Saudi Arabia?
Okay, so just do a quick recap. So the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, is a makeup of several countries. There's some commonalities and shared interests in terms of defense, security, foreign policy, and religion, but there are different ways in which they operate internally. So we're talking about challenges and opportunities. So I think the first thing is not to club them and go under the impression that the methodologies in the way in which we are delivering propositions or commercial cases is the same. So I think going back to what Saif mentioned earlier, 9 out of 10 of the population in the UAE are migrants. Now, these are of a highly skilled nature, if you were to go across the spectrum. But if you go across the borders to Saudi Arabia, it's 4 out of 10. And they are not from within, or the majority are not from the professional, highly skilled sector. It's more of the migrant or labor type community. Saudi Arabia has a policy of Saudiization, which was to promote, for example, local employment for the local nationals. Now, why did I mention this? Because sometimes working or trying to enter markets like the UAE, it's very familiar for us. So the same presentations and the same way we explain our businesses, it will be similar to what we're doing here and what we're used to. But when you move into the Saudi market, it's a little bit different. There's a lot more cultural, for example, challenges. There's things in terms of simplification, because sometimes the stakeholders within these large institutions are sometimes not able to comprehend. So you do see missed opportunities, and it's purely from the angle of miscommunication, or maybe not being able to justify what it is that you're trying to express, to them by way of opportunity. There is an initiative by the Saudi government, and it's branded as Vision 2030, and that covers a wide spectrum of initiatives. There's new cities being built, and I think it was one of the things I read in an article. It's like 1,400 years have passed since such a big city or economy was effectively being built. Now, under Vision 2030, these major cities that they're building has its own laws and regulations, for example. So it's a country within a country. And you are seeing that there's quite a lot of outreach and opportunities that are being availed, especially to our sector, so the financial services sector. So opportunities do exist. I think just to recap, the point is we need to be very clear on what is our proposition, what are we doing, what do we have to offer, and then to make sure that we place that to the correct stakeholder, because sometimes it's a little bit of a situation where you go to the wrong person, and by the time you've delivered the pitch, you're only there for a week. You've delivered it to the wrong guy, you come back and you find out later on that this was not the decision maker, or you were speaking to the wrong person. Opportunities are definitely there, especially with the Vision 2030 initiative.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Coming from UAE, definitely it's very important that in that region the cultural aspects are always something that everyone needs to look at. You need to understand actually the culture needs. It varies within the GCC itself from country to country. Now, if you compare, of course, Saudi Arabia, which is much more bigger than compared to UAE, for example, and Saudi Arabia still has got lots of Saudi citizens as compared to expats, whereas in the UAE it's not the case. In the UAE it's driven majority by expats. So obviously, when you compare in terms of market size, it depends on the population ratio in terms of citizens versus expats, right? So hence Saudi definitely, as part of their Vision 2030, they are looking at creating opportunities for the youth population in Saudi, obviously because they need to make sure that they give preference to the citizens in the country as well. Would you like to add anything from your side?
Yes, as Professor Saif said, and when we started in the business in Saudi Arabia, the vision, I was part of some of the initiatives in there, and it was just increasing and shifting and building what we have in Saudi Arabia. But it shuffled down after 3 years when we started to be new project, new services, new opportunity. When you talked about NEOM, for example, that is going to be a city within the city, a country within a country. It has its own regulation. It has a lot of opportunity, and it has definitely the different era of the new zone, areas or cities. It's not going to be in that. As well as we have the free zone and new zone like in King Abdullah city, or we're talking about Riyadh. Riyadh, as you know, it's a capital, but now the new Riyadh is 5 times of the current Riyadh. Okay, we're talking about the opportunities is there. That's why we encourage very much all the business to come and open a branch or an office or a head office in Riyadh to monitor the services or the opportunities in Saudi Arabia, and that, as well as that Saudi Arabia is 75% of their population is under 40. And this is a great potential for incorporating, or the human capital is there to help, and most of them now are educated locally and international universities, and the opportunities there is huge. And as we said, the payments, it's the payments or the industry, it's 20 years, 25 years has been developed, the recent development. Now we're going to other services, because with the payments, we're going with the currencies, and with the currencies, we go with a lot of things. They are merging, and all of them as essentials on all type of business. In the travel industry, we used to have allowed by the government to transfer the money by bags. That was like 30 years ago or 28 years ago. Then after that, it became like by telephone, you pay there, I give you here, and these kind like barter deals. Then after that, now the digitizing. Now we are looking for more. The business is growing, and the expansion of the business is huge in the opportunities in the market in Saudi Arabia.
Interesting. Interesting to see that in that part of the world, how countries have moved from just being focused on the oil revenue to other areas of business, where they are encouraging foreign direct investments, where they're encouraging fintechs to come and provide innovative solutions to the consumers and businesses. So there's a complete shift from just the oil primarily driven revenues to other sorts of revenues, which is there the FDI, the foreign direct investment, the tourism is booming in the GCC. Thank you. So my next question again is back to you, Yasser, is from a user perspective, how has the Saudi youth adapted to the digital landscape?
Actually, it became natural now. It's just not adapted. They studied, they are merging it, they are exercising it, and they are in touch. The conferences there and the trade exchange there, we are open market strategy now. It's not like we used to tell you stop, tell us who you are, like what it used to be. Now we are open and that. If you see the growth of the business, how many businesses start every year. Yes, there is, and the drop was, going out of the market in the first year was like 40%. Now we have the drop less than 15% going out from the market. The growth of the business growing in Saudi Arabia, the youth is, as I told you, the population is mostly youth, and they are well educated, and the potential, actually, the government has a lot of programs to send people to the outside for the study. Now they have restricted travel to go to study outside to the best 30 university in the world, and they are encouraging the youth to do the business and the opportunity. Also, the big opportunities happened with the pandemic of Corona, of letting people working, in distance and co-working with representing different big companies. The potential now is really big. As we said, the migrant on the business, yes, and it is 9 to 1 in UAE and 4 to 10 in Saudi Arabia. But as in the travel industry, I think we are bigger than that, because we related to everybody around the world to come into the Saudi Arabia, especially if they think about the tourism sector, and especially of the religious Umrah and Hajj activity, which is huge business. And the Umrah Hajj, the main pillars to do that travel is the finance, the capability to do it. That it is, the capability is you have a good health and finance good. And this is when you go to the finance, it's not only payment, it's how to make it, we can pay it in a good terms or in a good methodology. That where we think that the payments or the payment gateway or the payment services should be creative now, with a lot of methodologies and services and products to serve, to catch up on this. If they can provide their services, okay, I believe the growth on the payment will be with the tourism to be the second on after the oil product in Saudi Arabia.
Interesting. I mean, quite often, when people travel from this part of the world, they prefer, of course, Dubai as the ultimate destination when it comes to that part of the world. But Saudi Arabia is, again, a very promising tourism hub now. People know it from the Muslim community for religious purpose, but if you have to really go as a tourist, it's a huge area to explore. It has got all sorts of lands, though we know that in GCC, considering the weather conditions over there, it might be a desert, but surprisingly, it has got everything that a person can expect, from oasis to anything that you can expect because of the nature of the geographic location itself. So interesting. Right, so my next question is now to Nadeem again. How can the payments industry contribute to improving financial inclusion in the GCC, and what initiatives are currently in place?
I'll try to focus more maybe on Saudi Arabia, because I think the question is quite encompasses quite a lot of elements, so the answer would differ. So financial inclusion, I think if we were to, for the purpose of this discussion, break it into two, A would be inclusion by way of participating in some form within the transactional chain. And the second part, let's say, it is controlling the transaction. So from point of initiation all the way to point of delivery. So if we are talking about inclusion as point of initiation to delivery. That is a little bit of a non-starter, and I'm talking as a foreign entity trying to operate within the kingdom, unless you are regulated by SAMA, which is the state regulator within the kingdom. But where is there scope for us to be included is within the first part. So it's quite easy to come and partner up and play a part within the transactional chain. Now, because it's we are more talking about fintech as general, it's not just the remittance piece. So if we were to separate the remittance players from the acquiring and the payfacs to the tech providers, and then come back to the board and see which ones are more likely to have some sort of inclusion. The payfacs, the digital identity, fintechs, and the technology solution providers, those are key growth areas. Remittance is a very different ball game in the sense that inclusion is quite difficult, and that is because there is historically a domination from within the top four that have been working with local partners, and some of those relationships extend all the way up until exclusivity. And for a small to medium-sized enterprise to sort of initiate contact and try and develop relationships is quite difficult, because regulation states that really a bank should engage with a bank. And Saudi Arabia is quite black and white. If regulation says this, it's yes. If it says no, it's if it says this, it's no. So it's good to maybe go via an aggregator. That would be a good, and I'm talking about the people that come under the remittance piece for sending funds in. Also, we need to separate inward remittance and outward remittance. So when I mentioned the top four, I was referring to outward, but there is some scope for you to provide inward. But again, it's about being more of an institutional level type remittance entity as opposed to just a standard MTO. And maybe to try and limit the answer. So historically, there were 4 MTOs within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So what we would define as an MTO here, there were 4 that did exist. One was always, for some reason, was dormant. And then there were 3 main players. And about 5 years ago, we started to see them disappear. So regulator intervened and effectively got rid of those MTOs, so they stopped offering cash over the counter. And they were the ones that were sort of supporting fellow MTOs globally. And at the moment, one remains. But the way that one is still operational is because he is being told to not establish new relationships. So there is obviously some sort of push to try and move the way remittances come in and out of the country to more of the banking supported applications or their remittance products that they have, but within the banking side as opposed to the MTOs.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, if you compare Saudi and UAE particularly, UAE is, as I said, more exchange houses dominated when it comes to money remittance. But I think in Saudi, it's more bank-led model. Yeah. So banks, they tie up with established MTOs, such as the likes of Western Union, MoneyGram, and they offer services actually as a bank. So they have their own, of course, channels to serve the customers, both through their branch network as well as through digital means. Interesting. Right, my next question goes to Saif. I know, Saif, I've kept you silent for some time, but I think there's lots to talk about from UAE perspective. So how do consumer preferences and behaviors in the region, especially from UAE, impact the adoption of digital payment solutions? And are there any unique cultural factors to consider?
Yeah, I mean, see, this region, there are, various segments, right? So there are white-collar segments, there are blue-collar segments. So when you see the behavior, or the change or the positive change, so need to always keep in the mind we are, talking about, or we are serving, the whole segment. So whether it's a blue collar or the white collar. So see, there's number one, I would say like convenience, right? So for example, like any other country or any other part of the world, like you or I like the convenience. So that is what, seen, especially post-COVID. And trust me, even if I talk about for myself, I don't know the last time when I visited a retail location, even though I used to work for exchange houses, right? And the reason, like I prefer like, hey, the option what available for digitally to interact, where you are also, saving a lot of, good rates and pricing. So anyway, that is altogether different thing. But when talking about the change in the behavior, right? So this is for myself. But same time, when you are talking about the blue collar, right, who do not have that digital channel access, right, would love to go for the retail location. But at the same time also, I would like to highlight in 2008 or 9, like when the wages protection system came in the UAE, I would talk about. And after that, the other countries of the GCC, they also adopted the same. It was quite successful, where it is mandatory, I mean, for most of you, like who do not know the region. So basically there, what happens when you are, giving salary to your employees or the workers, whether it's a blue collar or white collar, it goes through a certain, processes, and this record goes to the Ministry of Labor or the immigrations or, whatever the authorities or the regulatory bodies are. This makes sure like the employees or the workers, they are receiving salary. So coming back to the topic where the organization changed. So what I'm just trying to say, like, if you see the financial inclusion, right, it is included here because in 2008-9, all those blue collar also got the accounts. And with the over period of time, what has happened, they have got the open loop cards or the closed loop cards. So they can do the online, shopping, they can interact, they can make the payments digitally, whether it's the remittances or the bill payment or e-commerce. E-commerce has also evolved a lot, since last few years. And I mean, you would see the kind of growth it's gone. I mean, I don't want to mention the name of those, the service providers, but they are really, really, doing great. And all this happened also because of the mobile first, kind of culture, right? I mean, this is a region where you would see like almost everyone is having the smartphone. And also the young generation, right, who really do not like, to go and interact in the offline method. Rather, they prefer whether it's a shopping or any kind of payments, irrespective. So these are the few important things like convenience, mobile first, right? E-commerce, grown, and the financial inclusion, which I mentioned about the 2008-9. From there it started, and of course it developed, right? It enhanced the customer experience, with a lot of service providers. I'm sure, like Ibrahim, you worked for this region, and fortunately, I'm so blessed that I work with you closely. So you know more than I also add, so like you can also add if you want to add any comments. But I mean, these are the highlights. These are the major points I just mentioned. Though we can talk about it, hours, but we need to also respect the time,
Great. No, thank you. Thank you, Saif, for sharing your insights. I mean, just to add to one more point in the UAE, so, when there was a shift from, the traditional way of serving customers through brick and mortar by exchange houses to digital, exchange houses thought that they'll have to downsize their number of branches and all, but it didn't happen because the exchange house there is more of like a financial, I would call it, supermarket. So when someone enters the exchange house there, they do lots of services. So unlike here, where MSB is having those three services, right, the cash checking, money remittance, or beauty the change, there it's much more than that. You can settle your bill payments, you can domestic, international, you can do airtime top-ups, you can settle your credit card bills of the local banks over there in the UAE. You can even pay for your subscriptions, pay for your, let's say, utilities and anything that you buy online. You have an option where you can buy, pay through the branch. You can even book your airline tickets, like the airlines of Fly Dubai and Arab, which are the budget airlines over there. So they give you an option there that you can pay through those exchange houses. So the exchange houses basically cater to a wider segment there. And of course, when they pull in all this traffic, then they start cross-selling them with those core services. So it's quite an interesting model to see in that part of the world.
And the one thing just I wanted to add that, the one thing which is also growing there, and it is motivating or encouraging end users to come and interact, is the rewards, loyalty programs, It is really, amazing offers are there. So for example, like billers, we are a service provider for Uber's Middle East subsidiary, which is known as Kareem. All right, I mean, if you go their super app, you'll find everything. You'll find, and everything is doorstep, or you can do everything, digitally. So the kind of incentives and rewards they offer, it's phenomenal, So, these are the things, which are changing the behavior of the end users, and everything is going in a very speed, and a lot of things, a lot of new exciting things are also going to come.
So my next question is to Yasir again. So Saudi Arabia is helping, fintech companies in many different ways, and we know with the initiatives driven by, the regulatory body there, which is SAMA and the Fintech Saudi. So what are some of the incentives for Saudi startups, especially in the fintech space, or in general, in any startups for that matter?
Okay, as Nadeem has talked about the regulation and how it was central bank or SAMA controlling everything and very few players on the market, then and now it has been changed. And let us differentiate between two things before we talk about this. We differentiate between the regulations, the rules, and this is open. There is rules from the government, but always the youth, the new innovators, they can suggest a new type of business they would like to tap in. They will find the regulators for them to start the business. And let us differentiate between the regulation and about the products of payments. The opportunities and the payments in the market is growing huge opportunity. If we're talking about the travel industry, in the travel industry, we're talking not about transferring the money from here to there or pay that and that. We're talking about the wholesale. We're talking about the modification of the goods. If we're talking about the travel industry, I changed my airlines. I would like to change it from low cost, from normal airlines to low cost, or that. The installment payments, buy now, pay later things. The opportunity of introducing voucher and the loyalty programs. Just, when you come and we give you these services and free if you reach this or that from this. The payment methodologies, the payment things and the transactions that we have guaranteed visitors coming from each country every year, okay? It has reached last year 10 million, okay? It's guaranteed and it is known in the markets. These markets, if we start to give them payment methodologies, they will be increasing every year by 20 to 30%. When they grow by 20 to 30%, it means the opportunity in the industry of payment, okay, if you like split payment. I have 50% of that program payment, I need my family to contribute with me. I need someone, if the payment methodology or the payment exercise is available, that it will help. It is there in the technology. That's what they're asking. It is there, but it's not applied yet to the markets and the market needs in the payment. And also the guarantor of these payments. I mean, if we go by installments or we go by fluctuation of currency exchange or going by something like that, there is in the payment, there is rooms for a new financial experts to come in to cover up some of the payments requirement on the business and there is something that I have created in like 10 years ago that it is like a gift certificate to be inherited. to the children. When he grow up, he can travel to Saudi Arabia. Okay, that you can, have a certificate for your child for Hajj or Umrah or something like that. And then everybody in his birthday, they just drop, whatever gift in that. By the time it goes, 5-10 years, he's grown up, and this certificate will be valid for him to go for the travel. I mean, the payment products should be creative now. They should be, guaranteed by bigger players. It should be, when we talk about this in different industries, especially in the service industry, we will find a lot of product that it be can created by payment players to serve the business sector and as well as the private sector to be creative in their product as well, and to grow the business and the market services. That's why the market in Saudi Arabia, just you come in, you will find the best fit for you to start the business and grow with Saudi partner or with your own, with the regulation. It's open for everybody.
It's interesting. I mean, again, in that region, what I personally notice is you have to understand the cultural element, the language. That's very, very important. Can we take the questions after the panel, so we can cover some more discussions, and then we'll take the Q&A. Thank you. So coming back to Saudi market, especially, Arabic is, of course, the language which is dominating over there as compared to UAE because of the, the nature of population ratio there. So obviously it's important to understand the language element of it. So for the new players who are entering into Saudi market, obviously you need to ensure that you have Arabic embedded within your payment solutions, if you are targeting, of course, consumers particularly, or even businesses directly, So that element needs to be taken into consideration, along with the cultural aspects of it also. And that's where we see some of the fintechs, unfortunately, entering into that region. They try and copy some models, maybe from this part of the world, go there, and they think that they can just, roll out easily. It doesn't, you need to understand those two elements very well, the cultural aspects, the language aspects of it. So, great. So my next question is back to Saif. How are fintech companies and startups contributing to the transformation of payments landscape in the region? And if you can share some examples of.
Yeah, I mean, if I talk about like this year, July, the fund raised for the startups in the fintech, basically, for the startup, it is like $95 million in July 2023. But if we compare this from the previous year, same month, July 2022, so previous year it was $105 million. But the same time, when you compare this year July figure from June 2023, which was $35 million. So from June 2023 to July, the growth is almost 170%, right? So when, such big fund raised during this period, it clearly shows what the startups or fintechs are doing there, and really how things are going so great, right? This is the one. Second thing, I mean, if I talk about a few years back and compare it from now, so you have a banking as a service provider, right? You have a corporate expense management, right? Services. You have a super app, right? Where you go and do everything, on. So now a lot of things are happening there, a lot of exciting things. And trust me, the way, I mean, and the way things are today happening, in the next few years, because of the leadership and the vision of the region, the leaders of that region, it is going to be double. Like, for example, 2030 vision of Saudi Arabia. And there's also vision of 2050 from UAE, where the UAE clearly said, like, we are going to double each and everything, including the population and the resources and everything. So now coming back to the startups and the fintech growth and how are they performing. So, for example, a few years back, when, let's say, for example, you wanted to launch a prepaid program, right? So that time, you as a payment service provider, you were not very clear like, hey, how to do this. And let's say if you are one of the exchange houses, for example, and then in that case, you need to go and look for the business sponsorship, right? And then you finalize one of the schemes, right? But today, when you go, the kind of fintechs available today, banking as a service, one-stop shop, they will manage everything for you. And they are under the regulator. And they have a license and they know what is their scope, right? So the roles and responsibility, everything is quite clear, right? So same thing goes for if I talk about the other prepaid products, for example, corporate expense, right? So earlier, I remember before 2010 and after 2010 also, like a lot of things changed where from prepaid cards, like from payroll to the gift cards and then multi-currency cards. And now there you would find like corporate expense management where the SMEs or SMBs or, it's very easy for them to manage their financial, department basically, their expense management, which is when it comes to the reconciliation, all it's called tedious process, right? But the kind of software, the kind of tools now available, it is making things quite easy. And plenty of players are there. And you would find the players who are coming from the US markets, who are coming from the UK market there,
Yeah, interesting to see. I mean, what really triggered, moving from cash to digital was the WPS that Saif spoke about earlier in the UAE, especially the wage protection system, where it was mandated by Central Bank of UAE, being the custodian of the whole system, that everyone has to be brought into the banking umbrella. So the underserved, the unbanked, I would say, segment, the low-income, wage employees were brought into this. So it was mandated that they need to have a prepaid account, and that has created, a new array of products. So from the payroll, there are so many other varieties of prepaid that are available in the UAE and of course in the other countries within GCC. So multi-currency is one, emerging prepaid product. And this is where, of course, fintechs are playing a key role there as, providing banking as a service model where, the exchange houses or other, players can collaborate with them and launch various types of multi-currency cards. And the reason is why, because there's a lot of outbound traffic, also traffic where, tourists or residents rather in the GCC prefer traveling outside. So instead of carrying cash, they can just, carry those currencies in a multi-currency card.
So I wanted to also add, I mean, since we're talking about that region, startups and fintechs, like I would love to talk about this billers also, just few lines, like because see, billers currently we are targeting $80 billion, right? So, I mean, the last year numbers, what I saw, it says like 2022, the global outward remittance was $800 billion. And when you see the bill payment, basically, we call it also purposeful remittance. It is almost $80 billion. So, for example, if India is receiving $100 billion, right? So from this $100 billion, $10 billion clearly goes for the bill payment. And that is what we as a biller is doing and doing great in the Middle East region. And the same thing, we are also expanding in this part of the world because billers is anyway, the head office is here in the UK and the regional in Dubai. And the same thing we are expanding in the Latin and US market. So this is also, one of the things which was not available before. And this bill payment is really, this is something which creates the stickiness, right? Whether you are a super app, you are a bank, you are money transfer operators, you are a fintech, right? You need bill payment, right? Every day. And this is something which you needed. If you don't make the bill payment on time, your electricity is cut, right? So this is a purposeful remittance. It is as needed as the remittance for your family when you support back home, when you send money. So this is 80 billion market, which we are trying to tap actually.
Interesting. Next time we would love billers to be one of the sponsors of IPR as well.
Yeah, inshallah, definitely.
More room to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, thank you, Saif. Right, my next question goes to Nadeem. So how do you see the adoption of AI and blockchain technologies within the payment sector in the region?
That's an interesting one. So blockchain, and let's separate blockchain and cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, etc., is actually banned within the kingdom. So in 2019, they came out and said no cryptocurrency. However, if you actually look at the growth and you see over the last 2 years how cryptocurrency and the trend has gone, it's actually gone extremely high. So it's banned, but there is a market that exists, and it is on the upward trajectory. Blockchain is there. Blockchain exists. Blockchain is very much in operation from some of the FIs there, some of the local banks. Now, Saudi has not actually come out and declared an official position after the 2019 circular, which actually sort of banned the use of cryptos as form of settlements. But now we come back to this GCC. So the GCC has certain perks and benefits for residents. So what that means is if you're a citizen of one country, I can quite easily move in to the other country. I wouldn't need a visa. I can open a bank account. And you can find places like Dubai, which is very pro blockchain crypto. So a lot of the settlements or the exchanges or the transactions are actually being done from sitting from like within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but using facilities that have been extended to me as a citizen, but actually doing those trades via the UAE. Now, I think one of the reasons why they haven't declared an official position, because if you say no to something today and it goes through the roof tomorrow, I think with the Vision 2030 initiative, they don't want to sort of miss the boat. So they're very much monitoring the situation. So I think in some aspects there's maybe a blind eye being turned to certain things. So they are aware of trades. And then obviously moving on to the second part of your question with regards to AI, I mean, that's huge. So again, by the way, everything's Vision 2030, so I'm going to be saying it a lot. So going back to the Vision 2030 initiative, there's a big emphasis on implementation of AI. So much so that even over and above the new cities and these huge projects that are being undertaken, they are creating something called smart cities. So smart cities, iris scanners, biometrics, contactless payments, and things like that. And there you will find opportunities, especially for anybody who is in that space, to really go in and engage with local partners. So, yeah, that's...
Yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, in the UAE, there is something known as the national identity, which is run by UAE Pass, where you just have to enroll once under the UAE Pass with your, Emirates ID, which is the national ID there. Once you enroll with that, you can use the same credentials literally with any sort of apps that supports UAE Pass plugin. So you don't have to do any KYC with any of those merchants, as far as you have that UAE Pass credentials. So lots of initiatives, even in other markets, even in Saudi, I'm sure, are happening. In the UAE, I know there's Ministry of Interior, which is introducing a complete eKYC solution so that there's a faster check-in, check-out process. It's already happening. I don't know if some of you have experience in Dubai Airport. If you go, you literally just go with your facial recognition in, facial recognition out. There's no stamping as such required. You can register for the smart gate options. So there's plenty happening in the space of AI. And I think UAE has one such country globally which even has a Minister of Artificial Intelligence.
Absolutely.
So they do have a Minister of Artificial Intelligence, at the moment, and they want to, of course, become a pioneer in AI and also a hub for blockchain globally. So that's kind of vision. And again, this in line with Vision 2050 of the UAE. So yeah, that's...
I'll just add
one
thing in there. First of all, we have started in Saudi Arabia the biometric for even the expats. It will be standardized. You will do it once, and then you will come as many as you want, and you will use it in a different application within Saudi Arabia. And they announce it, and they have started it this year to have the biometrics, whomever applying for the visa. and to Saudi Arabia, and this is he will use it in that. And I'm going to announce something that has been announced by the Crown Prince with Fox 2 days. The Vision 2030 is expiring in 2 years. We're going to launch in the 2025 Vision 2040. Okay, because we already achieved the goals that of 2030, and we're going beyond that. But we're going to materialize all these things, and the new announcement going to be 2025 for the 2040 vision of Saudi Arabia. And we don't want to say 2050 or 2040 because whatever plans we do in Saudi Arabia, it is evolving and it is developing as we go on the business, and whatever comes as an opportunity, we just grab this opportunity and try to materialize and expand it more.
Interesting. Anything you'd like to add, Saif, from your side?
Yeah, I mean, in last 6 months, Saudi alone, things are doubled, twofold. So what Yasser mentioned, I'm in full 100% agreement. And of course, these are the government initiatives, you know. These are the leadership and their vision, and the way region is growing, it is absolutely amazing.
Interesting. Nadeem, anything? Right, so just to give the audience also enough time for the Q&A, I'll just ask one question which applies to all the panelists. What do you foresee as the future trends and opportunities in the payment space, especially with sectors such as travel and tourism, because you come from travel and tourism especially, and I know you have worked on various projects, on large-scale projects. So starting with you, and then we'll move on to the other.
I mean, as I mentioned before, the opportunities is very huge, very big in payments and payment methodology, in pay in and pay out, and the splitting and the wholesale payment. Okay, we think about the groups. Usually we travel in groups, and a complete, actually, the charter flights is frequent flight to us. It's not the scheduled flights. And this is, if we find the methodology of payment in that, it will grow and very big. And also, since we are going with groups, it will allow us to go with the hoteliers to have rooms, to buy complete rooms in there and hotels in that, in the whole services and the sets, as well as it could be the scheduled trips to Saudi Arabia. I mean, everybody knows that he would like to go to Saudi Arabia like once in a lifetime, but like 3, 4, 5 times in between. He can plan it now, and he can exchange it later on if he did not use it with somebody. And this goes with the payment thing. If we find the payment, the good tools to give us in these services and in the payment. And also, if you take in about the multi-providers, which the multi-vendors of the one package. Okay, you have it one package, you sell it as a package for a couple of weeks or 10 days in Saudi Arabia, but actually within this there's an airline, there is a hotel, there is a transfer, a tour guide, and there is some snacks in between, and some merchant in between, some gifts in between. All these things for the payments to split that and to organize all these things on the payment in industry. Also, I think the world will come up in the next 5 years to less currencies. There will be dominating currencies to work on that. Whoever grab these opportunities or go with the flow on this sectors of payment, it will allow us as a business developer and pioneers and on a lot of the service in the industry, to create more products suits students to come. Why we are targeting people with heavy money? Why we don't target people? Because what we are selling is in Saudi Arabia, we are selling the heritage of humanity. We are selling I mean, where you go there, you're going to see and discover things that you used to hear in the stories, okay, and now you're going to live it and live with it. And it's just, if you go 1 hour to the north or 1 hour to the south, it's completely different culture. You will find something that, yes, it is Saudi Arabia, but we are, you know, kind of having a lot of products to be offered, and these products need servant, and the payment is one of the strong in this business.
So can we say that, you know, the way that market is driven is you require the payments to be embedded within all the, you know, services that are offered by various stakeholders? So it has to be an embedded service, you know, so that the facilitation of payments can happen, the transfer of funds can happen behind the scenes, behind on, you know, the layer of the services offered.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm using one of the payment gateways. Actually, we are integrated with 3 of them. I'm using one of them, and they are offering, actually, they let me develop the way of payment and give it to them, and they will regulate it for me, and they will sell it to me as a product. Then I can, you know, use it in my product and my services to sell on the services. And this is the way, when idea comes to me or to any business or any innovators to have he need the support from the payment. If the support is there, then the product will come to life.
Great, thank you. Saif, anything you'd like to add on the...
Is it the last question?
Trends? Yes.
And I think you mentioned about the future of the payment. So, see, I mean, if you see the payment future, of course, it's going to be double, triple, you know. And also, I just give you the example. Like, for example, if I see the shift in the payments culture of this region, especially I talk about the UAE, you know, the earlier, of course, there are strong players, right, who are the remittance service provider, right? And they do not just offer the remittances, as you already mentioned, a bouquet of services, range of services, including the bill payment and airlines and travel cards, right? So many things. So here, if you see the shift, almost more than 35% or more shifted to the digital platform, and almost 65% are still who are you know, interacting and going to the retail locations to make the transfer. So this shift is positive. And if you see the growth, right, if you see the Latin America, right, for example, maybe the growth is 6%. And if you see for this particular region, the growth is more than 10%, you know. So the growth is also there and growth is also here, but this is with fast, you know, pace, right? So, yeah, I mean, there's a great future. It is just going to boom and boom, right? And especially the kind of projects announced by the Saudi Arabia, right? And the expats and the migrants are, you know, flying there. It's really so exciting, and there's a huge future, actually.
Nadeem? Okay, great. So I think with that, we are done with all the questions, and we would like now to open the floor to Q&A.
Assalamu alaikum. If you don't mind, I have 3 questions for Brother Yasir and Saif. The first one is, let's say we are a UK company, API, or we are API. So if we have apps and one of the Saudis expert download the apps and wants to transfer money to, let's say, Bangladesh or India, you'll be transferring money from his bank account or credit card to our platform. So we are acting as a technology platform provider. So we are not physically going to Saudi. We are here UK. So if these customers send money by using our apps from Saudi to Bangladesh or India, are we compliant? Are we breaking the law, or do we need any license?
I'll pass this to Brother Nadeem if he can answer this.
Let me just, before. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, see.
Same for UAE.
Yeah, so if when you are talking about, as a remittance service provider, so the very first step is about the customer onboarding, due diligence, right? So here, if you are a company which is based in the UK and you do not have any presence in the UAE, right? Or in Saudi Arabia, and you want a customer there, send money from there to Bangladesh or India or Pakistan, this is something which does not come into the regulatory framework of Saudi Arabia or UAE, right? Further, if you want to add
Yeah,
any
I
comment,
mean, see,
Ibrahim
there are
and
two things
Nadeem.
we are talking about, right? If you are actually trying to onboard customers, right, from those markets, obviously you need to still have the collaboration with those entities which are licensed under the relevant central bank bodies, right? And even in terms of payments, because you will have to still accept payments, right? So in order to accept payments, you will have to rely on those registered licensed institutions. So the technology, yes, fulfills the requirements, but in terms of legal aspects, you have two elements to address: the customer, which is within that zone, GCC, right? And the pay-in channels, that also has to come through a license route.
So you have to be locally licensed.
Yes, yes. I mean, you
That's
can tie up with the players which are already established and offer your services. But in terms of onboarding, in terms of the management of funds, they will have to do it because they are licensed under the relevant authority. Unless you want to go yourself and establish a
So
full-fledged,
that's lead to my
yes.
second question that I come across. So let's say I get a license or partner with one of the, let's say Saudi or UAE, but I come across if you have license either Saudi, one license will cover the whole GCC countries.
No,
Is
there's
there
no
any
passporting as such over there.
nothing
There's no
like that.
passporting
No.
as such, yeah.
Okay.
It also depends what your business model is. Are you B2C? Are you B2B? Are you B2B2C, right? So, but definitely if you want to serve end users and you're thinking having a license in Saudi Arabia is going to serve purpose and cover all the GCC countries, no.
No. Okay, then the final question is, in Saudis and UAE, one of the difficulties is if we want to go and establish a business there, one of the difficulties is we have to be partner with one of the local partner in Saudi and UAE, or give them a sponsorship or 65% or 50% of the share of the business. That was before. Now, how is the latest now in terms of fintech?
So now things are changed shortly, except certain industries or certain businesses, which are quite tiny in the percentage. But now, for example, you can go and establish your company, whether it's mainland or free zone, 100% ownership, and you can start your business. Yes, of course, there are terms and conditions, but for very specific industries or businesses. But in general, you can go and own the business 100% and you run the show.
Thank you.
Sure.
So as I understand, you said that I can go and take my license and operate. Is it applicable for the remittance business as well? Can I go get the documentation and start my remittance business, or?
If I can just clarify something. So I think just going back to what Saif mentioned. So there's certain sectors that you are excluded from. Financial services is one of them. So a foreigner cannot go to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and open a financial institution as a 100% control. That's excluded. GACA is the organization which creates these lists. Number two, coming back to the remittance piece, I think I was trying to indicate earlier on, that's also a boat that sort of sailed. So it's extremely difficult to go in as just a remittance piece. It's easier for you to try and go for the inward remittance and try and speak to either the telcos, because they're extremely active. So nowadays, the likes of the Saudi Telecom, Mobile, Zain, they've created the e-wallets and they're doing remittance. So you can try and use them to facilitate your payouts within the country. But you going, or me going as a foreigner, it's not going to happen. So earlier on I mentioned that they're already trying to close the few they had open. They do not want anybody to come in and open that can of worms again. So it's a no.
So I have another practical question, if you allow.
Let me just elaborate on this, that if you go as a financial, definitely it's going to be restricted. If you go as a fintech and try to go to that sector as a fintech and you be hooked with one of the institutions of the finance, that's a different story. There is license to take on these services, providing a technology for one of the services through one of the players in there. Then they can regulate the financials transactions in this.
Okay, thank you.
So just to recap, when it comes to Saudi market, it's slightly different than UAE market. UAE market is much more open, I would put it this way. You have multiple free zones. But with the Saudi market, you have certain industry, let's say, bodies through which you have to link up with and then get your, services offered through that. Right, so,
On the UAE market then.
Yeah.
In the UAE market, we have the PSP license. And when we talk to the bank, they said with the PSP license, you can't send remittance or anything. It's an internal thing you have to do. And they said you have to go to the central bank and get a separate license for that. And from the free zone, you can't operate outside. So
So I just would like to know, before I answer your question, when you mentioned about the PSP, Payment Service Provider, this license is from where? Issued from where?
the Dubai
Okay, it is mainland or free zone?
mainland.
Okay, and you want to offer financial services, right?
Yeah.
So of course you need to have a regulatory license, and that regulatory license, either you have it from FCA or somewhere other part of the world, and then it depends which business model you want to offer, right?
Okay.
B2B or B2C or B2B2C, right?
Okay.
So if you want to offer B2C and you have a PSP license there, definitely this PSP license, what you are referring from the mainland, right? That is from the commercial license from the economic department.
Yeah.
But you do not have the regulatory license. For that, you need to have, and there are certain ways which, what are the activities, which payment activities, what kind of remittances or cross-border you want to do. So it's a wide thing, definitely. I mean, we can take off the line and we can discuss.
Okay, let's discuss
If you are interested, I can connect you with those contacts, including Ibrahim is the one of the main consultants, who can serve you for the market.
So it's quite similar to what's happening here. So you see here also when we register a company with Companies House, we do mention we are offering financial services. But that does not give you the permission to do directly the service. You still have to get the relevant permissions from FCA, and maybe you might fall even under HMRC. So it's quite a similar model there, where yes, you might have that business nature of business as financial services, but you need to apply the relevant permissions with the other bodies also, such as Central Bank of the UAE. Yeah.
I think we have one more question.
Yeah, we have some questions from the online attendees. A question from Richard. If Saudi Arabia joins BRICS, does the panel think they are ready for also joining some kind of common currency for settling trade between member nations? How could this affect the development of current technology and payments?
Interesting question.
Would you like to answer?
Yes.
Yeah. So recently, at the last BRICS summit, Saudi Arabia and the UAE were invited to join. And obviously there's some conspiracies about what the true intentions are of BRICS, and they're going to, create a common currency which might be from within the blockchain type space and rival the US dollar. So there's a lot of stuff which is happening, but let's be clear, until something is not announced, everything is a rumor. Naturally, even without BRICS membership, although, by the way, they're going to join in January of next year, they do, within the GCC, create intercooperation. So at the moment, I could be from within one GCC state, and I can quite easily execute a payment to another GCC state. So when it comes to settlements or intertrading, they already have infrastructure and cooperation in that space. But in terms of, I think the wider question, we're going to have to wait and see. We will have to just wait and see until there are official announcements. But we can see, I think, the general ethos is that there will be some things that will be evolving in the very near future.
Thank you. One more question regarding corporate payments. Do the panelists see, what's your opinion on corporate payments versus B2C?
Sorry, I'd like to answer that one. So we used to support quite a high number of corporate payments, and leisure and tourism, again, that came up a few times, was one of the biggest industries. So if you look at the UK and Europe, reason for payments was obviously pegged back to leisure and tourism. The boat has sort of gone on that again. So it's sort of the remittance providers and the corporate payments, because now the travel agent does not sell, collect and send. He is not responsible for those elements. It's now gone on to an automated fashion. So it's outside the control of the people that used to collect funds and then go to the corporate payment providers and then initiate a transaction, give them the USDs and then purchase the equivalent sums of money and then pay the hotels. That sort of process was more yesterday. So now we are bound by the new digital touch points that have been created, and then they have an automation, so card payments are charged online. So there's not really a need for brokers per se at this moment, unless it's naturally another industry, but I'm pretty sure that they're talking about leisure and tourism because a lot of corporate players have missed out. Yeah.
There was another question, a couple of questions on the same topic regarding how to go about starting a MSP business within Saudi Arabia. In particular, is a sponsorship required, which I think has been covered already. Is there anything specific like a website that can be shared with the attendees where more detailed information can be found?
Yes, so it depends on which markets. So we're talking about Saudi, obviously. There are a couple of sites that they need to go. I mean, Sama is one good, I would say, site I would recommend because it has wealth of information. If you happen to be in UAE, then it depends whether you want to operate in the free zone or non-free zone. If it's non-free zone, then obviously you have to go with the central bank site, which gives you all the information and the license categories.
I mean, I would say what you mentioned, Ibrahim, that of course makes sense. But the right answers are like they can connect with the Remit One and you guys can provide, off the line, the whole detailed conversation, and discuss about the possibilities of the business, new business.
Yeah, depends the type of the business. And he can go to the ministry for an investment ministry, or if he's in the banking, he has to go to SAMA. But yes, 100% owned for foreigners, that's most of the business. But there is some business still needs some of the sponsors or co-partner from Saudi Arabia.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions.
Well done, thank you.
Million barrels. So you can imagine there's probably going to be a US air base going there very soon, right? Right, Rob? I saw you on the phone earlier to old Biden. Biden, guess what? The Scots have found oil. Yeah, imagine the next invasion. Right, so question for all of you, something very different, not payments related. If there was a point in your life that you could go back to, what would that be? Have a think. Let's start with you, Saif. A point in your life, any point in your life, where would that be? And could you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
I would say like the life when I was in the university. And, the hostel life. No responsibility, waiting for the cash coming end of the month from the parents, right? It's their responsibility. And especially when you live in the hostel, it's, like you are the boss, right? And young blood, So I would love to go back to my university days.
I share that. How life has changed now, hasn't it?
Absolutely. A lot of responsibilities. And this life is more beautiful than that. But since you have asked, so I just mentioned.
And pot noodle was the only thing that we used to eat in the day. That's back in the day. Mr. Yasser, yourself.
I think I did great. I will repeat the same thing I done. And the only thing that I would bring more youth with me to my experience and that in the life.
But is there a memorable time in your life you'd like to go back to revisit and to watch again? Not to change, but just to be there again.
To have my parents back.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them in Jannah, inshallah.
Ameen.
Inshallah.
Yes. My brother Nadeem, where do you be?
Absolutely the same.
I know what you're going to say. For the first time you met me, right?
That was the first.
It was memorable.
Let me swiftly move on to the second.
Okay, please do.
You gave the.
Don't embarrass me.
For me, it's absolutely losing a loved one that I lost. Sometimes we say, you know, if only I was able to, whether it's money or whatever, what could I do to just have an hour? So if I had that wish, I would actually go back just for that hour, and I'd love to just spend a bit of time, because sometimes people leave in life and you haven't had your chance to, you know, to say goodbye, and it's always a regret, I suppose, in later life. So
it's also about prioritizing our lives as well.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes business and work does take over.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes we forget what the most important things
That's
in
right.
life are, which you've both said. Ibrahim, how about yourself?
Yeah, so if you allow me, I'll say two things.
Yeah, go
One
then.
is very similar to what the other two gentlemen said. One is I wish I could have spent more time with my parents when they were alive. So that's one thing. And secondly, if I can just switch myself back to my single status mode now that I'm.
Let's not go down that road. You do realise it's live stream.
Yeah.
Just forewarning you in case the wife has tuned in.
Oh, yeah.
What she says
Make
is he would not have made any other decision than to have taken your hand and say, I love you and will you marry me? You probably saw the wrong subtitles come up. That's for a different conversation earlier.
technical error.
On. Thank you again so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you as our panelists. Let's hear it again for our wonderful esteemed guests. Thank you.